IBM Cloud outage. 2 failures in 2 weeks raised deeper questions. IBM Cloud suffered its second major outage in 2 weeks on Monday, leaving users around the world unable to log in, manage resources, or access essential services. Cloud login disruptions, even if short-lived, delay access to key applications, slow internal coordination, and interfere with automated workflows. Cloud outages that affect user login or platform access don't always trigger immediate chaos, but they introduce friction that compounds quickly, said Sanchit Gogia, chief analyst and CEO at Greyhound Research. Gogia said that a multi-region impact suggests more than an authentication bug. It typically points to a shared backend component like a global DNS resolution layer, orchestration controller, or telemetry service. Unlike compute or storage failures that tend to be localized, control plane weaknesses ripple across zones, making the outage harder to contain and more disruptive to enterprise teams managing distributed workloads. The lack of regional decoupling in core platform functions remains a concern for CIOs navigating compliance, performance, and isolation trade-offs, Gogia said. Gogia pointed out that building resilience today goes well beyond backup storage and secondary data centers. Enterprises are now investing in multi-layer observability, cross-platform orchestration tooling, and secondary access routes that remain available even during vendor platform disruption. This could mean hosting lightweight admin portals outside the primary provider, deploying mirror telemetry in a separate region, or using independent DNS management. As quoted in networkworld.com, in an article authored by Nitty Single published on June 3, 2025, beyond the media quote, our view in full. Press for time? You can focus solely on the Greyhound flashpoints that follow. Each one distills the full analysis into a sharp, executive-ready takeaway, combining our official standpoint, validated through pulse data from ongoing CXO trackers, and grounded in field notes from real-world advisory engagements. Why even brief cloud platform outages disrupt enterprise operations? Greyhound flashpoint, cloud login disruptions, even if short-lived, delay access to key applications, slow internal coordination, and interfere with automated workflows. Per Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 53% of enterprises globally now classify platform-level availability, not just compute uptime, as their most pressing reliability metric. What used to be considered background infrastructure is now central to how digital enterprises run their day-to-day operations. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, cloud outages that affect user login or platform access don't always trigger immediate chaos, but they introduce friction that compounds quickly. For organizations operating on just-in-time orchestration or tightly coordinated DevOps pipelines, such interruptions delay code pushes, dashboard access, and even internal incident response. It also restricts access to observability and support portals, which are crucial during recovery. Enterprises are increasingly embedding platform access reliability, not just infrastructure performance, into business continuity playbooks. Greyhound Pulse. Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025 finds that 64% of digital native enterprises measure cloud reliability in terms of operational fluidity, not just traditional uptime SLAs. Among these, 41% now include platform access metrics, login latency, control plane responsiveness, console availability, in their weekly cloud health dashboards. Greyhound Field Notes. Per a recent Greyhound Field Note from a global consumer goods enterprise, a cloud platform dashboard outage temporarily disrupted real-time inventory visibility across its APAC and EMEA operations. Although back-end systems continued running, business users lost access to fulfillment insights and collaboration tools for nearly 2 hours. The incident prompted the company to build offline access workflows and rethink telemetry resilience beyond core compute layers. Multi-region outages signal control plane fragility, not just login issues. Greyhound flashpoint. Outages spanning cloud regions often signal systemic weaknesses in the control plane, the layer that governs access, orchestration, and monitoring. These are no longer isolated events. They raise legitimate enterprise concerns about how resilient the provider's internal architecture really is. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, multi-region impact suggests more than an authentication bug. It typically points to a shared backend component like a global DNS resolution layer, orchestration controller, or telemetry service. Unlike compute or storage failures that tend to be localized, control plane weaknesses ripple across zones. This makes the outage harder to contain and more disruptive to enterprise teams managing distributed workloads. The lack of regional decoupling in core platform functions remains a concern for CIOs navigating compliance, performance, and isolation trade-offs. Greyhound Pulse. Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025 shows that 62% of global CIOs are now prioritizing questions about control plane design in cloud RFPs. Within regulated industries, particularly financial services and telecom, 37% have asked providers to formally document fault domain boundaries for non-data services, such as monitoring, access, and orchestration. Greyhound Field Notes. A multinational banking group advised by Greyhound Research recently encountered an outage in which their cloud provider's orchestration console and monitoring dashboards became inaccessible globally, despite no disruption to data or workload execution. The incident stalled internal audit reporting and delayed overnight automation jobs. Following the event, the CIO mandated geographic isolation and health visibility for all control plane services across business-critical regions. How enterprises can improve cloud resilience beyond vendor contracts. Greyhound Flashpoint. Outages of this nature are encouraging enterprises to rethink resilience not just in terms of vendor reliability, but their own architectural readiness. Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025 finds that 48% of global organizations are now implementing dual control designs, where access, observability, and orchestration are managed independently of the primary cloud provider's native tools. Greyhound Standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, building resilience today goes well beyond backup storage and secondary data centers. Enterprises are now investing in multi-layer observability, cross-platform orchestration tooling, and secondary access routes that remain available even during vendor platform disruption. This could mean hosting lightweight admin portals outside the primary provider, deploying mirror telemetry in a separate region, or using independent DNS management. The recent cloud outage examples, while not catastrophic, serve as useful stress tests that help identify soft spots in architecture and policy. Greyhound Pulse. Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025 reveals that 56% of organizations with digital operations across multiple geographies have started decoupling workload automation from the primary cloud console. Of those, 34% have added clauses in their service contracts that require control plane health transparency and periodic joint architecture reviews with the provider. Greyhound Field Notes. A global logistics provider working with Greyhound Research recently redesigned its cloud access stack to ensure that orchestration and observability functions could operate independently of the main provider console. During a subsequent outage, its IT operations team maintained full visibility and recovery capability via secondary monitoring layers. This design, originally built as a resilience experiment, is now being rolled out as default architecture across the enterprise's cloud estate. DNS-related cloud incidents reflect broader gaps in platform resilience. Greyhound Flashpoint. DNS issues, while not uncommon, can become highly visible when they affect login services or orchestration tools. Greyhound Research believes these incidents highlight a recurring industry challenge: over-reliance on centralized services to govern distributed workloads. As workloads scale across geographies, such dependencies create new single points of failure. Greyhound Standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, when cloud login disruptions trace back to DNS or related control services, the takeaway isn't just technical, it's strategic. Enterprises need clarity on how many backend dependencies are globally shared and whether those services are architected for fault isolation. This is especially vital in contexts like national infrastructure, healthcare, or public services, where even modest delays create downstream risk. These incidents also signal a shift in how resilience is defined, not just by data redundancy, but by access and observability independence. Greyhound Pulse. Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025 finds that 44% of enterprise IT leaders have updated their cloud procurement criteria to include DNS resilience metrics and fallback strategy disclosures. The trend is most pronounced in Asia Pacific and Northern Europe, where sovereign cloud concerns and latency-sensitive applications intersect. Greyhound Field Notes. A global energy conglomerate recently shared with Greyhound Research how a cloud DNS issue briefly delayed orchestration triggers across its refinery and renewable asset operations. Although no immediate damage occurred, the CIO flagged the event as unacceptable for environments where timing precision is tied to safety and compliance. The company has since begun implementing regional DNS resolvers and isolation checks as part of its multi-provider architecture review. Analyst in Focus. Sanchit Gogia. Sanchit Gogia, or SVG as he is popularly known, is a globally recognized technology analyst, innovation strategist, digital consultant, and board advisor. SVG is the chief analyst, founder and CEO of Greyhound Research, a global, award-winning technology research, advisory, consulting, and education firm. Greyhound Research works closely with global organizations, their CXOs, and the board of directors on technology and digital transformation decisions. SVG is also the founder and CEO of the House of Greyhound, an eclectic venture focusing on interdisciplinary innovation. Copyright policy. All content contained on the Greyhound Research website is protected by copyright law and may not be reproduced, distributed, transmitted, displayed, published, or broadcast without the prior written permission of Greyhound Research or, in the case of third-party materials, the prior written consent of the copyright owner of that content. You may not alter, delete, obscure, or conceal any trademark, copyright, or other notice appearing in any Greyhound Research content. We request our readers not to copy Greyhound Research content and not republish or redistribute them, in whole or partially, via emails or republishing them in any media, including websites, newsletters, or intranets. We understand that you may want to share this content with others, so we've added tools under each content piece that allow you to share the content. If you have any questions, please get in touch with our community relations team at connect@thofker.com.